How's it going? I want to talk about writing and communications. There was a previous video that I did. I'm not sure how long ago that was. I believe, 2 weeks ago? But I'm not sure if I ever uploaded it. And I never, even if I did, I don't believe I went to it at length, and why writing and communications is so important. But just to start off, communications is not really something that gets taught in society. Like breathing, this is actually a perfect analogy. Because we breathe, we believe that we don't do it incorrectly, but technically the correct way to breathe is out of your tummy and not out of your chest. If you really study it, then you actually find out that that's the case. We just grow as adults and we get in the bad habit of breathing incorrectly. Why do I say that? Because the same can be said for communications. We take it for granted that because we talk that we can communicate and convey what we feel. Anyways, if you're still confused about the breathing thing, just look at how children breathe, babies, particularly when they're born, and you'll always see that they're taking breaths and it's straight from the tummy. You'll see it all the time. Plus, there's books out there that cover the topic and stuff like that. But I know that a lot of people will be like, what do you mean? Like, don't you just breathe into your chest? Well, don't trust me, actually. I was going to say trust me. Don't trust me. Just look into it. If you don't think it's correct, that's fine. The whole point's that, holding that to be true and as an analogy, and holding the fact that we can communicate, or at least use words but not convey what we want to say, in a way, it's how can I impart this? It shows us that we can go through motions thinking that we're conveying our emotions and what we want to say, but ultimately not have done so, even though we think we have, because we've gone through the motions. You know what I mean? So I say this because a lot of the times people will have problems, whether it's with an employer, whether a significant other, a friend, it doesn't matter, and all of this is based off the conversation that, well, not all of it, but, the reason I'm making this video is because of the conversation I had with one of my best friends. And it reminded me how important, writing is with communications, because a lot of the times people don't realize that, hey, you know what? Maybe we didn't communicate correctly about A, B, or C. That's fine. Maybe somebody screwed up. That's fine. But if two people don't communicate directly, and I've made this a point in at least two books, Halcyon Days and Love Conquers All, I mentioned it. I went into it a little that extra depth in Love Conquers All because it's so important. I believe that the fact that it doesn't get taught in school in any way. I mean, yeah, later on, if you're in college, and maybe some select high school courses, they have it, but when I went into schooling, there was nothing about communications anywhere, at all, not even in college. But that's a whole nother thing. The whole point's that it's something that's taken for granted, like breathing, just because it happens. And it's kind of unfortunate because there's so much that can be done and can be said if you communicate directly with somebody. And the scenario I'm talking about specifically is the one about my friend. She's having trouble with somebody, and they aired out their contentions, and it was very direct. They didn't have to use writing. They could have, and she agrees. She's very logical. In fact, arguably the most logical person I know. But the whole point's that we came to the conclusion that writing helps with that. And a lot of people will agree with this, and whether you agree or not, it doesn't matter. The fact that you can actually air out what you want to say, what's concerning you, what's bothering you, etc., 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 through a letter or through some sort of note, even like a bullet list, like for instance, oh, whenever you do this, 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 and this, man, that annoys me. That would go a long way, because the people that care, they'll actually be like, oh wow, I didn't know I was doing that, or like, oh, okay, I'll make sure that I try, and stuff like that. If somebody doesn't care, then it doesn't matter whether you give them a list or not, but at least you're trying. And the whole point's that that's what the whole point is, that writing is taken for granted from the communication standpoint, because we're not taught to do it for personal reasons. It's usually always for like an essay, or for work, or for this, or for that, heaven forbid. But when it comes to something more substantial like communication, you almost never see it used ever. I don't know too many people that employ it. I write all the time, and I rarely employ it in such circumstances, and then I should. Occasionally I do, but the reason for that is because I tend to be very direct, and I don't like there to be confusion in anything, because the easiest way for things to just spiral out of control is people not communicating with each other. It doesn't matter who it is, like be friends, strangers, whatever, relatives. I don't know how many times somebody didn't communicate, whether it was me or the other person. It doesn't matter. And before you know it, people ended up like, confused, hurt. It became an antagonistic situation. So the whole point is that, maybe it could be something you explore, whether it's at work or any relationship, really. And by relationship, I mean like broad stroke use of that word, and not just the romantic sense, just everything, So keep that in mind if you're ever struggling with, a situation or something. It might help a lot more than you might realize.